and we're seeing pictures now, if you're watching on the television, of what is happening, the very start of that march. We also know that Tommy Robinson, the far-right campaigner, has arrived at the Cenotaph with some of his acolytes as well. He is there. And we have in the studio Huffington Post political correspondent Alicia Fitzgerald and Peter Bleksley, who's the former Metropolitan Police detective. They are still with me. I'll come to you in a second, but I just want to hear from Conservative MP James Sunderland first, who joins us. James, thank you so much for taking the time on Saturday morning. What do you make of, I mean, the security operation is clearly going as it should so far this morning. There have been no reports of anything untoward, but really we are in a situation where Metropolitan Police have to guard the Cenotaph in the centre of London because of this pro-Palestinian march. What does that say, do you think, James?
It says an awful lot, Peter. I mean, the important thing this weekend, of course, is that this is Armistice Day today, Remembrance Sunday tomorrow. These are sacrosanct activities, and we've got to do all we can to make sure that people can pay their respects, to commemorate these important things as peacefully as possible. I mean, I'm no fan of the march at all today, but I have no problem at all with lawful protest. But if this spills over or it gets out of hand, we've got a problem. Yes,
we do, and I'm sure that has been prepared for. What do you make as a Conservative MP, as someone who I know is friends with Suella Braverman? I hope I can characterise you in that way. What do you make of what happened with her this week and the political row that's going on?
Well, I work with Suella. I work in the Home Office. I see what goes on. And, you know, the suggestion that the Home Secretary is somehow not entitled or not qualified to offer a view about policing is quite extraordinary. She's the Home Secretary. She deals with this every single day of the week. And also there's a danger that what she said this week could be proven to be correct today. It is very interesting. I don't want to wade into the debate, but ultimately it was the Met Police Commissioner that made the decision not to ban the march. He didn't ask the Home Secretary for those powers. But of course, today the police are saying that they need to prepare for potential violence. So there's an inconsistency there, which to me as a Tory MP doesn't quite make sense.
Should she have done it behind closed doors, though? Shouldn't we in public see the Home Secretary entirely supporting the Metropolitan Police? I'm sure she absolutely supports the rank and file and the very difficult job that they will be doing today. But clearly there is a tension there with the leadership and Sir Mark Rowley.
Look, let's be absolutely clear. The Home Secretary, who I know very well indeed, is utterly supportive of the police and has been all of the way through. She's entitled to be critical on occasion. That's her job. That's the remit that she has. But she's entirely critical, and it is not my job. She's entirely entitled to be critical. But it is not my job to criticise or condone her as someone who works with her.
Sure, of course, absolutely, James. But it is certainly something that has been very controversial this week as well. And of course, the protest going ahead, we know it's a minority of people who have caused a problem, but it doesn't, in some ways, it doesn't matter that it's a minority. There's still people breaking the law, doing horrendous things, attacking police officers. We know 4 of them were injured when fireworks were sent into the line of police last weekend in Trafalgar Square. In terms of the march today, it's hard to predict, of course, what will happen, but we do know there will be a lot more people in central London, and the fact that many people will be staying out of central London because this protest is happening. People who might have been going into the shops or to do tourist destinations or whatever. I mean, is your personal position that it should be banned, or that it should have been, we should have tried to persuade people not to have the protest march today? What do you think of that?
If you want my personal view, I think that there are better weekends for this march to happen. I think the organisers of the march should have made the decision in their own interests to move the march from this weekend. Let's allow Armistice Day and Remembrance Sunday to continue unaffected. We do have a potential toxic mix today, which is very regrettable. We could have avoided it, in my view. And also, this is about the law of unintended consequences, not just about the sanctity of Remembrance Weekend. You've had Just Stop Oil glue themselves to the Cenotaph this week. Complete nonsense. We've got the pro-Palestinian march today, which should be a peace march, and I'm really hoping it is a peace march. We've also got these far-right groups turning up now, which won't help either. So the police have made the decision not to ban the march. The police now need to deal with it if it spills over. And also the Met Police need to take responsibility what happens.
In terms of that responsibility, James, I mean, what does that look like? If this gets out of hand, and we desperately hope it doesn't, we want it to be nice and quiet, but if it isn't, should Mark Rowley resign?
Oh, well, I mean, not for me to say that. That's a matter for him. That's a matter for the government. It's interesting, isn't it, that Sadiq Khan is believed to have said yesterday that, oh, don't worry about number 10. I'm the Met Police. I'm the boss of the Met Police. I'm the London mayor. I mean, complete nonsense. I mean, this is indicative of a guy who is completely out of his depth. And he's been utterly quiet. And
we've heard very little from him. He did do an interview with Times Radio the other day and a few other broadcasters. For some reason, he just didn't have the time to come on talkTV. I'm not entirely sure why. But we have heard a little bit from Sadiq Khan, but he has been really, his silence a lot of the time has been pretty deafening over this in terms of, the biggest protest ever in the capital, or one of the biggest protests ever. Of course, the Iraq War March was bigger, but one of the biggest protests. And the fact that he is the Mayor of London. And, I would have liked to have heard a lot more from him, James.
Yeah, I think I would have wanted to see a lot more leadership from Sadiq Khan. He's been very quiet. He's been complicit, in my view, in this pro-Hamas element of these marches this week.
I'm sure he would deny that.
It's not been good. Well, of course he would. But Labour Party is split at the moment. Keir Starmer has prided himself on eradicating anti-Semitism from his party. You saw the Labour conference last month. I think we are seeing quite different now. So, tensions are high at the moment. It's very important for politicians to dial down the rhetoric. I would have wanted to see the march not happen today. I've got no problem at all with lawful protest, but we need to make sure it does not spill over. We need to make sure it doesn't go anywhere near the Cenotaph, and that we don't allow a toxic mix to spill over into something really quite difficult.
You served our country yourself, James, in the army. Tell us about your career.
Well, I mean, I did 26 years of military service. I did many things. I'm a proud veteran. I think the veterans in our country are very, very important, and the government's doing all it can to support them. But actually, this is not just about uniformed service. This is about service across the piece. This is about key workers. This is about police. This is about the NHS, everyone who fulfills a vital function for our society. We need to listen to them and look after them. And actually, today and tomorrow is about the veterans. It's about our fallen. It's about Armistice Day, Remembrance Sunday, and it's about appropriate commemoration of the fallen. And that's where we should be focused this weekend.
And as someone who served our country for over 2 decades, James, and reached a very high rank within the army, what will be going through your mind at 11 o'clock today?
Well, we pause. We pause for reflection. We pause to pay respects to those who have paid the ultimate price. We pause tomorrow, Remembrance Sunday. And when we wear those poppies, whether you are a veteran, whether you're serving, whether you're not, whether you're a civilian, it doesn't matter. We all operate as one. We're all one nation and beyond, commemorating what people do in the name of service. And it is important that we do remember all of those that we knew, and I knew several people that aren't here anymore. And it's very important that we pay the respects to those who have paid that price. And as I said, that's where we should be focused this weekend.
Thank you, James, Conservative MP James Sunderland. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. And it really is that sense of remembrance and sacrifice and appreciation that it's so much of this coverage, Peter Bleksley, and so much of what the nation is talking about at the moment has been actually forgotten.
Well, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point
Yeah.
of not only today, but tomorrow. And anybody who dismisses it or doesn't think about our fallen or doesn't want to show some level of respect, whatever that may be, by abiding by a minute or two silence, wearing a poppy, or just quite frankly behaving yourself over the weekend, really needs to give their head a wobble. But I would like to speak about Sadiq Khan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
I had the huge misfortune to hear him this week.
Right.
On one of his very rare media appearances.
He just didn't have time to come on talkTV. He's a very busy man. We did ask him a number of times.
He didn't, and please don't string me up for listening to another media outlet, but when Khan spoke, I wanted to listen.
Of course.
Of course, I wish I hadn't. It was the most staggering, hypocritical interview I've heard, because what did he do? He banged on about the operational independence of the police and how sacrosanct and important that was. And since he has been London Mayor, he has repeatedly interfered with policing matters. He's almost seen it as his right, and of course he does have some responsibility, but to hear him talking about independence when his DNA and his grubby fingerprints have been over more interfering in policing matters than I can possibly imagine, that really was crass hypocrisy.
Alicia Fitzgerald, political correspondent at Huffington Post, what's your view on Sadiq Khan and his role in all this? Because really it has been about a little bit about Rishi Sunak, an awful lot about Suella Braverman. How do you think the politicians have come out of this, specifically Sadiq Khan?
Specifically Sadiq Khan. Well, I was going to say, I think the Conservative Party as a whole, they have it's a difficult one to play, because obviously the police are an independent body, but at the same time the government are the government, and they actually obviously have the overriding say on what happens.
And policing has been political. I mean, it is with a small p, there have been political elements to it, and that it's always difficult, isn't it?
Of course, but I actually just want to pick up on a point that James Sunderland made as well, because he mentioned that, you know, about the Home Secretary's right to scrutinise the Met Police. And I think, of course, she has a right to scrutinise the Met Police. That is pretty much a big part of her job, but that's definitely what she's allowed to do. But that's not what the debate was about. It wasn't about her questioning the police. It was about her going behind Number 10's back and publishing an article in a newspaper without it being signed off by the Prime Minister and his top team.
Is she out of control? From Number 10's perspective? From
Number 10's perspective, it's a difficult one, because on this occasion, it wasn't signed off by Number 10. But I think it's doubtful to say that Rishi Sunak and his team never have anything to do with her views. I think it's difficult.
Well, he appointed her as Home Secretary. He didn't need to. She had resigned under Liz Truss. You know, Grant Shapps had a glittering 7-day career as Home Secretary. And then Suella Braverman was brought back. And actually, I wonder if she actually provides an outlet for the Conservative Party, maybe even Rishi Sunak, to say things that he perhaps wouldn't otherwise say.
Well, exactly, and this isn't the first time she's made front-page headlines for various phrases, statements, inflammatory language, whatever you want to call it, that she's gone ahead and said. This is definitely not the first time that's happened. And although this particular issue wasn't signed off by Number 10, that's not been the case for everything she's ever said in the past. It's happened on multiple occasions. So
how narked are Number 10 from the conversations you've had this week? How annoyed are Number 10 about Suella Braverman? How do they view her this week?
It's so divided. It is so divided, because on the one hand, Rishi Sunak doesn't want to ruffle the feathers of the people towards the right of the party. He doesn't want to ruffle those who will say she has the right to her opinions, that, you know, she's just speaking.
Think he'll sack her this week? We'll see.